love this call. I love that we have these amazing guests on to really bring value to us as real estate agents in life and just everything that we're doing. So, today we have special guest Tiffany Neuman. Tiffany is a marketing guru who used to be in the industry in like New York City, and she decided she wanted to have a family and have a life, so she went and started her own business, and it's amazing. And she helped do my website. If you've seen it, it's dawnloading.com. I to this day I love my website so much. Like and she helped me brand my Freedom to Flourish stuff. So which I use in all of my talks. It's literally my brand, and it was before AI. So it comes from the heart, and she helped pull that out of me. Like literally in one of her programs that she had to offer, I took it, and it was literally the best thing that I did for my business. So without further ado, I will introduce Tiffany Neuman.
Amazing. Thanks for having me, Dawn. It's so wonderful to be with everyone here today. Looks like we have a lot of incredible women in the room. And I also love speaking to real estate agents because it has a special spot in my heart. My dad was a real estate agent. My favorite cousin is a real estate agent. So I know the industry fairly well. So just an added bonus. So I'm really excited. Dawn asked me to come in today, and I do work, like she said, I used to work with big brands in my corporate career, and now I work primarily with thought leaders, coaches, online service providers, real estate agents, kind of runs the gamut. But I am focusing specifically, obviously, on real estate today because that's what Dawn asked me to do. So that's a beautiful thing. So my goal is to share my screen and kind of talk through some concepts with you for at least around 30 to 40 minutes, and then we'll end with some Q&A at the end. So also love to make this somewhat interactive, so it's not just me talking at you all the time. So feel free to utilize the chat, and any questions that you have, I will answer those at the end. But if you want to comment, or I may ask you to share your thoughts along the way. But the first thing I'd love to do while I get started and start sharing my screen is just ask where everybody's located, because I always just like to know where everybody's coming in at. So if you want to enter that in the chat while I get my screen set up, that would be amazing.
We have Arkansas, Indiana, north of Atlanta.
I'm from Texas, but I'm in Mississippi right now.
Union, Missouri, Orlando, Georgia, Missouri, Illinois, Missouri, Birmingham, Alabama, Oregon. We've got everyone everywhere. Tennessee,
Nice.
Metro Atlanta, everywhere.
Love it. Um, And that's the beautiful thing. I'm so grateful technology, has its downsides. And like Dawn said, so much has changed since AI came in, but branding really is to me like capturing your essence. And that's the human piece that we really need to keep in touch to, reach potential clients, obviously. But it's just so beautiful that we can all be connected here today, and we are literally all over the place. I'm actually in Michigan, so I don't see anybody else from Michigan. But I worked out of Chicago, New York for years. So, anyways, it's so wonderful to see. So, today we are talking about personal branding as it relates to having a business, because really, especially in real estate, in some ways, our brand is ourselves, right? And yes, we may have like a a realty name behind us, the name of a company that's for credibility and things like that. But ultimately, people want to work with us. And so that's why I'm calling it a personal branding workshop, and really how to embody your business through your brand. So we're really going to talk about how to create a brand that positions you as the go-to agent in your community. Um, and so we are going to cover the 5 shifts to a memorable brand, the missing link to your success, how to craft what I call a legacy brand. And then we are going to, like I said, have Q&A at the end. So I have questions to get us started. So utilize that chat and maybe just put a why if any of this resonates with you. I always like to ask, when it comes to branding, have you ever thought these things? Maybe you've thought, well, I want to be seen as a leader in my space, but there's so many other agents out there. Maybe you've thought the market is always shifting. I'm not sure how to stand out and get known. And maybe you've thought, I know that like a brand is important, but I haven't had time to work on it, or I'm not really even sure like how to work on the brand, right? And this is super common, by the way. So don't worry about admitting this because, unless you have my background and have gone to school and taught branding and worked in branding, probably understand like what a brand is in a general sense, but it's not supposed to be like your genius, right? So what I like to say is the real problem is you haven't made these 5 important shifts. And the beautiful thing is once you really step into these shifts, you will be able to step into the vision that you truly have for your business and develop what I call a crave-worthy brand. And this is a brand that like magnetically attracts people. It's a brand that works for you instead of you having to work for it, right? And so really, really quickly, I will just share who I am a little bit further because you might be like, who is this Tiffany chick and why should I listen to her? My favorite title in the world is Mother. And this is actually a fairly old picture of me and my daughter, but I just haven't changed it because it's like my favorite picture of us ever. But she's 11 now. So I'm sure we have a lot of, mothers, daughters, sisters, in the group. But especially if you do have children, you understand that that takes a lot of your time. And so that's the other reason that I really love to teach branding because it can change our lives. It can take so much off of our plate and do a lot of work for us. Um, but the reason I'm qualified to be here talking to you is, like Dawn said, I used to work with brands like Burt's Bees, Adidas, Stoli Vodka in my corporate days as a creative director. I've also been featured in Forbes multiple times. I'm a contributor for Entrepreneur Magazine, all of the things. And so I share that just so you know, this really is my life. It's not like, oh, I made a couple websites. I'm a brand expert. And so I'm really excited to be here with you today to share all of the knowledge that I have and how it applies to you. And so the first thing that I want to talk about is your brand is your identity, right? And I think, I don't know about all of you, but like when I was in the corporate world, it was very easy for me to market things and to share things because I wasn't the brand, right? I was selling other things. But when we kind of become the face of our own brand, and this doesn't apply to everybody, but it can feel scary to promote ourselves, right? But unfortunately, that's what we need to do as brands. So we're going to talk about how to do that today without it feeling like icky or salesy. Because most of us, that's the thing that kind of like makes us shy away from it. For instance, I was the girl who was afraid to ask for ketchup at a restaurant as a child. Like I was so deathly afraid of like being visible at all. So I've worked through my own visibility issues. I speak on stages now. I talk on LinkedIn all the time. And so it can be done if that's you. Just know like you can transform in this way. And so the first shift of the 5 shifts that I want to talk about today is to simply do what I say is let go. Because most entrepreneurs, and yes, as a real estate agent, you are an entrepreneur, most people tend to play it safe or maybe follow the lead of those they admire, which is awesome. Like we need people to like show us how to do things, obviously, but if we're doing that or following the advice of experts whose clients all sound and look alike or using archetypes for branding, and ultimately we tend to look externally at what other people are doing rather than internally at what we want to do, right? And so I'll share some examples and case studies a little bit later of actual real estate based examples, but this is such a good example that I need to share it with you. So this was my client, Elizabeth Hartkey, and case studies are the best way for me to like paint a picture of what I mean by this. And Liz was actually really high up in a network marketing company, right? And she thought she had to like play this part. She was a leader at Beachbody. She felt like she had to show up a certain way, have this glam look, be all dolled up all the time, but she was burnt out. And the reason was she was not actually showing up in her true identity, right? And so branding is really identity work, I like to say. And it's also the ultimate form of personal development. And so, like Dawn said at the beginning, of like actual branding is working through your identity and finding out who you really are and positioning that into the world. And so often we do what we just kind of follow what other people are doing, right? And so, what I like you to think about is like a Venn diagram, your core essence, who your ideal clients are, and finding that sweet spot in the middle and then aligning that with your brand values and your mission. And so when I worked with Liz and we really talked about it, she was like, yes, I do this network and marketing thing, but I'm just not showing up as who I am and it doesn't feel good and I'm burning out. And so we helped her shift into her true identity. And she really wanted to elevate other entrepreneurs into powerful leaders, right? She didn't want to just sell this product anymore. She wanted to become a coach. She wanted to do deeper work. And she also wanted to show up as who she truly was. So I won't spend time going through all of her values, but if you read all of her values, you'd find out that Liz actually works and lives in Wisconsin on a farm with 5 children. She is not clam. She's chasing children and chickens most of the time. And it was that way, it was so difficult for her to just get online and do like an Instagram or, talk about her business. She felt like she always had to do all of these steps and show up as this certain way of who she thought she should be, not who she actually was. So when we helped her make the transition so she could show up as she truly was, that's when everything shifted. And so I'm showing you the visual, really, like Dawn said, it was like the messaging and the identity work that did the biggest shift. But she finally said she could stop having this identity crisis and show up as her true self. And so this is the brand that we developed for her, which is called the Luminary Leadership Company, and really just allowing her to show up as her true self. So you can probably see how much of a difference, and just like instead of a fake smile and showing up, this is actually who Liz is, right? And so the beautiful thing about that is miracles and what I like to call quantum leaps happen when you take the time to show up in your true identity, right? And so she was able to sell out a brand new mastermind when we did the rebrand. She doubled her income after a few months. And she really started attracting those aligned clients, not people that she didn't really enjoy working with. She loved her clients because like attracts like. So when she was showing up as her true self, that allowed people to come in that were aligned, right? So that's shift number one. Shift number two is to establish yourself as that leader and also establish your true brand. So again, most entrepreneurs, we build the plane while we're flying it, right? Maybe drop a Y in the chat if this is you. You grab a logo, you're like, okay, this sounds good. I'm going to name it this. And that's nobody's fault. It's just because we're busy, right? We're all busy people. And so my work is really helping people take the time to get clear by focusing for an amount of time to make sure everything's cohesive, coherent, and congruent, right? And so when we kind of build the plane where we're flying it, or we DIY, we have fun, or ultimately we build the brand unconsciously, which again, nobody's fault, it just happens, we end up with what I called a Frankenstein brand, okay? So this is my client Kisma when I met her. Now, Kisma is like a spiritual coach. So not really along the lines what any of you ladies are doing, but it just paints a really strong picture. So on the left was her old website, which is very serene and subdued. And then on the right was her Facebook header. And then these are like her courses, right? And you can notice it almost, I mean, if you look closely, okay, yes, that's the same person, but the brands are completely different. And that's because she hired somebody to do her website. She did this herself. And then she hired somebody else, like a virtual assistant, did this. And so it's Frankenstein, right? There was no congruency there. And again, it wasn't Kisma's fault. It's because she was like, okay, it's time for this. It's time for this. She didn't have a brand operating system, as I call it, in place. And brands become disjointed if you're not paying attention and if you don't have a system to follow. And it unfortunately confuses your audience when like it's fun for us to play and be like, "Ooh, I want to use these colors and make these changes." But if you think about what when I call legacy brands, like Target's never going to change their red logo, right? Or Apple's never going to change the way that they talk about their technology in a sense. And so sometimes consistency isn't fun for us as the business owner, but it's really, really important for our audience. The other thing that I want to cover in this space is what is actually a brand. Okay. So your brand is your most valuable asset. And I know there's a lot here, so I can always share this graphic with Dawn afterwards if you want to look at it deeper. But this is really just to paint an illustration high level of like the iceberg analogy. Now, this is used for a lot of things, but if we think about the tip of the iceberg, what's visible, it's usually your logo, maybe a tagline, your visual identity, how you're showing up visibly. But what people aren't seeing, but they're judging subconsciously, is below, which is your personality, your voice, your core message, your marketing strategy, your brand promise, your mission, your values, right? These are all actually the foundation of your brand, where what we typically think of as a brand, the visuals, is actually just the icing of the cake. And that's the biggest misconception I see most people have about a brand is they're thinking when I say brand, they usually think about the visuals, right? And really, the visuals are important, but it's all of these foundational pieces that are even more important. So I just want to point that out when we're talking about why this Frankenstein brand happens very often. And I showed you Kisma's visuals, but it can also happen in the messaging. Are you showing up with consistency in the way that you're talking, in the way that you're sharing, right? That is really important too. So when we worked with Kisma, we really wanted to determine where she wanted to go. So if all of you are wondering like, okay, this is all great information, Tiffany, but like what's the first step in having an amazing brand? It's always getting clear on your vision because when you get on your vision, you know where you want to go. And maybe you've done this work, but I want you to think about like 3, 5, 10 years down the road, where do you want to be? And I always help my clients do that in their very first step because then we can reverse engineer from where you want to be and build the brand for that so you can evolve and grow into it. And the biggest issue that I see people making, or the biggest mistake, I guess I could say, is branding for where they're at now instead of where they want to go. And so when you brand for where you're at now, you're consistently like reinventing the wheel as you evolve and things like that. So if you have a big vision for your business, we want to brand you for that vision. And that's where Kisma kind of got caught up in like just evolving without having a plan. And so when we worked with her, it was like, okay, let's bring this all into one cohesive unit as what I call again a brand operating system. And then it just makes her path clear. She doesn't have to think about it. So, like Dawn said at the beginning, it just takes so much off your plate when you're constantly not having to think about these things. You're like, oh, I know what to do. This is my brand. This is how I talk. This is how I do things. So, this is Kisma's brand, the high level afterwards. What we did, she actually had like 30 courses that she taught. She had different programs, she had different things. Now I know this is different than real estate, but still when we have like all these different pieces of the brand and it's not consistent, that's the issue. So we took everything and put it under these 4 pillars, which she called codes. and made icons for each one. And now when you look at the brand and if you look at our website, it's very clear and consistent. It has one visual aesthetic, and also it's very clear in her message of who she is, who she's trying to reach, and why. Before, it was kind of everywhere. I can help you with this. I can help you with that. I can help you with that. And she was speaking to the general masses instead of like a targeted person or group of people. And so similarly, Kisma doubled her income within the first year that we worked together, and she's scaling her business faster than ever before. She now has a whole team really running the back end of her brand, and she has the guidelines that she could hand over to them rather than just kind of scrambling every time there was, a new social media post or new something to do, right? Okay, so now on to shift number 3, which is grow. So what I like to say here is most entrepreneurs, they might not know what to do with their multi-passionate interests. So do we have any multi-passionates in the house? So maybe like you're doing real estate, but you also like have another business or a side hustle, and you have like multiple things that you're working on. A lot of times my clients are multi-passionates and they have multiple brands because of that. And it's very confusing for them, but it's also very confusing for their audience. And so that's the other reason to kind of come in and bring everything under one umbrella. A lot of times they tend to swirl in doubt because of this. And sometimes that can just lead to kind of doing nothing instead of taking action because it's just easier to do, right? So our case study for this, which is really fun, and Dawn's given me permission, is the famous Dawn Loding. So this was Dawn before, and she will tell you, this is why she came to us, is she kind of had different pieces of the puzzle. And I know she's even moved on a little bit more since we worked together. You know, from EXP and everything. But anyways, this still stands true. There was some consistency in the visuals, but there was like different pieces of the puzzle. And ultimately, I think Dawn would tell you it wasn't really showing up in Dawn's true essence, right? And so this is where I like to talk about, again, we always go back to getting clear on the mission, getting clear on the vision, but also what are the big ideas behind your brand, right? And so some of the big ideas when I worked with Dawn were we help agents build the business foundation to become powerhouse producers so they can enjoy the freedom and lifestyle they envision. We are a family of families. We are a tribe looking for the right people who see the big picture, want to be part of the family and live their dream. And we want to have fun doing what we love to do, right? And so with all of those pieces, that's how we really came to Dawn's brand now, which was, the Loding group, freedom to flourish, and really helping people have fun. It's fun, it's vibrant. If you know Dawn, this is totally her, right? And all of you know Dawn because you're here, but I don't know how deep everybody knows her. And so that's the cool thing is like Dawn has a very unique niche now. She's talking more specifically to women, that freedom to flourish. And, she said that at the beginning, but the growth has really come since then. And of course, Dawn's energy and her work has also done that too. So that is shift number 3. Well, let's go through one more shift and then I want to check in with everybody. Shift number 4 is to allow. Now, what I want you to notice today is that I'm not necessarily telling you like, oh, it's so important to choose 3 colors for your brand. And it's important for the logo to have these attributes. And that may be what you thought you were walking into today in this presentation. That's where if you walk away with anything today, I really want you to realize that the brand is really the foundational pieces that I'm teaching, but it's also the mindset. When we shift our mindset and we really step into our true identity, then we can, then talk about all those like do's and don'ts and how to do it. But the truth is, there is no any one general set of tools that I apply to any client. Like it's important to have these specific fonts, or it's important to show up in this way because each individual is so unique. And so that is my belief, is that no one should actually look alike or sound alike. And so the goal is really to capture your unique essence, right? So it's not like this cookie cutter thing. And so the last shift, or the almost last shift, is to allow, right? And most of us tend to compare ourselves to others, right? We all do it. We see social media. We are like, oh, that person's further ahead. I wish I was there, right? It's just so common. Maybe we have fear standing up for what we believe in. Now, I'm not saying like you have to get all political or religious on your posts. I actually typically tell people not to do that. But still standing up for what you believe in as far as your values is important. A lot of times people don't invest in rebranding or really investing in their brand because they're afraid of losing what they've already built, maybe, and shifting what they already have. And ultimately, that allows them not to reach their highest potential, which is the sad part. So for this case study, I'm sharing my client, Elaine Liu. And Elaine is a leadership coach. And she kind of had that quintessential boss babe branding, right? When I first met her, she's a first generation immigrant from California. And she realized she just branded based on like the trends, right? This was back like right before 2020. And it was just a very trendy brand. So what I want to show you is, and it's not bad. Like it was cute. Her pictures were great. But what she realized was she wasn't leaning into her heritage, and she was more than just a career coach. She really wanted to go and like grow bigger. So this is where I want to talk about allowing ourselves to be our true selves, right? And I know I'm kind of doubled down on this identity thing today, but especially as women, we are talked to by the media, by our upbringing, by our parents, by our schooling to be a certain way a lot of the times. And so if you want to attract and create a true community and those aligned clients, something bigger than yourself, then you really have to lean into what you're scared of sometimes. And I don't mean like in a scary way, but like allowing that authenticity to come out and double down on it. So we changed Elaine's brand to say, we promote, empower women of all colors to create their own legacy. She really got clear on doubling down that she wanted to be a thought leader and a go-to diversity and inclusion expert, and also a business coach. And so the beautiful thing is, when we redid her brand, we named it Color Your Dreams. And that spoke to serving women of color, but also, really stepping into your destiny and your dreams. And you can see here that we actually utilize the Filipino flag, which is her heritage, a take on it. It's not the exact colors from the flag, but she really wanted that to stand out in her brand because it's so much of who she is. And so we developed the brand based on that. And you can see here how everything is cohesive and coherent within all of her sub logos and everything else. And that's also, of course, her messaging. So again, this was a little bit ago. Some of those are newer case studies. This was actually in 2020 during COVID. And so she was able to actually 4x her income within 2 years. She has, at the time we worked together, she was only working with people in LA. So I helped her expand that to a global community of women of color and allies. And more than anything, yes, the money is nice. Yes, all those things are nice, but she's living in her truth and purpose. And that's really the beautiful thing. So I know I've shared a lot with these 4 shifts. We're going to go into shift number 5. I'd just like to do a really quick check-in though, because I've been, talking at you, and just do a quick, catch up in the chat. Is this making sense to everybody? Do you have any specific questions now? Any thoughts? I see Jenna says yes. I think that was to the multi-passionate. Oh, thank you, Dawn. Dawn saying when I got my brand right, my confidence upload 100% awesome. Mary saying yes, it's great. Okay, perfect. I always just like to make sure that we're tracking before I keep going, and then we will get to full question and answer time here in a little bit. All right. Any other thoughts or questions? Otherwise, I will move on. Okay. We're tracking. Okay, thank you, Sherry. Okay, perfect. So, next slide. Shift number 5, our final step is clarity. So many of us, we try to figure out all alone, right? It's so interesting how when we have our own businesses, whether it's real estate, whether it's a brand strategist, whether you're a coach, whatever that is, we tend to be in a silo, which is why, Power Girls, I'm sure, is so incredible, right? Like community is so important. But oftentimes, I don't know about you, but I find myself and we're sitting in our own home oftentimes and we're trying to figure it out alone, right? Or we know we have so much to offer, but we continue to struggle because we don't get that clarity that we're searching for. Or sometimes we overthink and have perfectionist tendencies. Anyone else in the room? I know that is me oftentimes. And so I always say that you can't see the label from inside the bottle because it's so hard to have an objective view on our own selves and our own business, right? And then, like I said last time too, oftentimes we compare ourselves to others and then we get a little bit stuck. So that's where I like to say, invest in mentoring to get results. And whether it's with me or somebody else, of course, I'd love to help all of you. But if it's not me, make sure that you're working with somebody who looks at branding as a co-creation process, because that's what's really going to help you step into confidence and certainty. When we have someone to hold our hands and guide us through the process that's an expert. And that works with everything, right? I'm sure you all have mentors in real estate. And so it's so interesting how oftentimes we try to do it alone and because we're afraid maybe of an investment, but we could actually get further ahead in 1 year than we could in 5 years if we would just do that, right? And so that's really where I want to then step into the big missing piece today, which is what I call differentiation. You may have heard of this before, but when you can differentiate yourself from everyone else out there, narrow your focus a little bit, and become what I call a category of one brand, then that's going to make a huge difference in everything. Now, when I say niche, that can mean a lot of different things. So we'll talk about it a little bit further. But when you don't have some sort of a niche, it results in struggling with that clarity, consistency, and confidence. Your ideal clients may not be attracted, so that's not compelling. And you may lose steam and motivation. So it doesn't allow you to be as courageous, right? So clarity on your unique perspective will help determine your values and then also where you want to take your brand and business. So what I want to do for just a minute or two here is to just let's take 2 minutes and think about, maybe you already have a niche, but a lot of us oftentimes are like, well, I could, sell a home to anybody. Or maybe some of you, maybe not everybody's selling homes to families. Maybe it's commercial real estate, whatever that is. So I'm not saying you have to niche down to like, oh, I'm just working with single moms, right? Although that would be a good niche. But I'd just love for you to think about, have you thought of having a niche? And if you have, what would it be? Because when we can speak to a specific audience, that can make all of the difference. And sometimes it's scary for people to do that because it's like, oh my gosh, well, if I talk to just a niche, then I'm excluding like all the people I could meet in the grocery store, right? And it doesn't mean you can't still, serve the people that you meet on a daily basis, but it just allows your message to be that much clearer. So again, just take about a minute or so to think through that, and then I'll come back and we'll go into our final steps before Q&A. And actually, just if you feel like it, okay, yeah, perfect. So, niche is agent attraction, Dawn said. So she's not actually going specifically after real estate clients. She's really helping agents. So if you have your niche or you want to figure out your niche, just drop that, or you're like guessing what your niche could be, just drop that in the chat. Jody's saying new construction. Don's saying investors also. Okay. And if you don't know, that's fine too. That can come and it can be something that you think on for the next little bit. That's other than the vision, like I said, that's really the first step that I help all my clients through is finding that niche. And the other thing is sometimes people niche down so far. So like I had one client who niched down so far and almost couldn't find any clients. So there's that sweet spot in the middle, right? And so for one instance, my cousin, I helped her do her brand. Like I mentioned, she's a real estate agent, and her brand is the Barefoot Realtor. She ended up living on a lake, which she never thought she could do financially. And she built her business so she could do that. And she just loves being outdoors. And so where so many real estate agents, are dressing up and being polished, which there's nothing wrong with, like if that's who you are, she was like, no, I'm the barefoot lady. So she shows pictures of herself in the grass and like stand up paddleboarding on the lake. And that attracts a certain client who enjoys that type of thing. And then it creates that instant trust, right, with them. So, okay, perfect. Sherry's saying no idea, which is totally fine. That's why we have these calls, so you can start to think about it. Jennifer's saying retirees and downsizers, love that. Becky's saying mine has changed, so I'm still recreating. And that's great too, Becky. Like that does happen in business, right? And so when we're recreating and shifting, then we also want to think about how we can rebrand to match our new target market and also our new identity. I've talked to a lot of women recently. This is kind of on a separate note that's not part of my presentation, but I've talked to so many women who have been coming in who are like, I don't know, I just feel like an identity shift. Like there's a shift happening in the world right now, I think, where women are rising up. And I won't get into all the details and my thoughts behind this. But maybe that's you. So like it's either a shift in ideal clients or niching down, or sometimes we are just shifting and we need to reinvent ourselves and we need to show up in that new way, right? Sherry's saying she works with investors, and Jenna says luxury and ad agent attraction. Awesome. Love all of that. So that's really what I wanted as far as the workshopping part today, to pose the question to you, especially in real estate, because there are so many real estate agents and I don't want to like call it out, but there's a lot of competition, right? And like the market's always changing. And I was just at my cousin's last weekend actually, and we were talking about this of how, you all know the market changes and sometimes we have to shift and change too. And so that's what I really wanted to leave you with today is like, what are those mind shift things, that the shifts that we need to go through? What is a brand really? It's not just our fonts and colors and our logos. Those are important, but that's after we get clear on the messaging and our niche, right? And so as we wrap up and step into question and answer, I just wanted to talk about if you're interested and you want to create your legacy in a brand that lasts a lifetime, you can go to my website, which is yourlegacybrand.com. And actually, I would say Instagram because that's where I have a lot of resources. So there's downloads and things on Instagram, but you'll notice I left social media quite a bit. I'm on LinkedIn, but I put a 9 grid up on Instagram. Um, and it's still working. I still get lots of clients. So if that's something that you're interested in too, we can also chat about being what I call social media optional. Social media can be great, but if I found myself burnt out on it, and so I'm actually not that um, active there, I use other methods to find clients. So just wanted to put that out there. And then last thing, I will also put a link in the chat if you want to book a call and talk things through. I'm happy to do that. And then last but not least, Q&A. So I'll stop sharing my screen. And yeah, we have about 15 minutes if people have questions I'm happy to answer anything that I covered here today or anything else that you might be wondering about branding. And you can either just unmute yourself or drop it in the chat. Or Dawn, if there's anything you want to add while we're waiting for questions. I think you're muted, Dawn.
I was just going to grab your Instagram. Did you already put it in there? No? Okay.
Now I muted. That's so funny.
I mean,
Thank you.
I do want to schedule a call with you because I'm about to launch a podcast and I'm wondering like how you can help me come up with some copy my brand, but how do I use that to kind of move it to another level to use with the podcast?
Yeah, I love that, Dawn. Well, the cool thing is, I'll just answer you quickly, but we can totally have a
Okay.
call, of course, is because I've already helped you develop your brand operating system. The beautiful thing is we would look at how that would fit into the existing ecosystem instead of like adding a separate brand, like how does it fit into the container that we've already built for you? But yeah, I also thank you for mentioning podcasting too. I also have a podcast if anybody wants to check that out. I just had my 150th episode.
Yay.
So happy to chat with you, Dawn, too, about all things podcasting because I wouldn't consider myself an expert, but I'm 150 episodes in. So,
Awesome.
all
I see
right.
Tiffany, you're next available. I just went on there and booked with you. And thank you for sharing this info. You're booked out into November,
Oh, geez.
the
I had
18th.
I might have to look at I know. I have a wait list right now, ladies. I apologize. I
Hi.
don't apologize. It's awesome, but I did not realize it was all the way till November.
Yes, November the 18th. I have my session booked because I need your help.
Okay. Well, awesome, Sherry. I look forward to connecting. Sorry
Thank
I have
you.
to wait a
Likewise.
minute, but
No
yeah, it's
worries.
been like I said, I wasn't lying when I said I've talked to so many women who are shifting right now. Like we have a wait list because it's just happening. I don't know what's happening in the air right now, but I very much look forward to talking, Sherry. Do you have any
Thank you.
specific
Likewise.
questions while we're here?
No, it's just I do some other businesses and I just want to like tie everything in. I was just talking to I'm helping with the ribbon cutting session tomorrow event. And I mean, my branding is kind of all, I feel like it's all over the place and I want to tie everything in together. So I'm not like one day I'm Legal Shield because I do Legal Shield. I'm Legal Shield, one day I'm Epic. I
Got
just
it.
want to tie it all together under the same umbrella.
Okay, totally makes sense. And that's one of our specialties is bringing everything into cohesiveness, as you saw.
Yes.
So looking forward to speaking with you. And that's really common. I mean, especially this day and age, it's smart to have multiple streams of income, right? Because, things shift and change, but then it is difficult to be like, people are looking at your social media like, wait, I thought she did this. Wait, she does
Yeah.
that, And so that's what it's like perfect what you said is like, what is that umbrella? What's that golden thread, I like to call it, that can tie it all together and make a specific brand for you, for Sherry, that all of those pieces fit in. So
Well, thank you. I'm excited, Tiffany.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, we'll talk about that soon. Looking forward to it. All right. Anyone
Charlene has a
else?
question. Charlene asked
Oh,
that, are there
perfect.
any exercises to go through in advance before meeting?
Ooh, that's a great question. Yeah, I would say, I mean, there's not specific exercises per se, but I would say if you have the capacity, let me actually go to my website and specifically my podcast. Um, I wouldn't say exercises, but let me find, I have a good episode. Um, I just have to find it. So if anybody else has questions, drop those in. I'm just going to scroll here for a minute to find my own episode. Um, I feel like listening to this episode could really help. Let's see. While I'm looking for that, though, feel free if anybody else has questions or thoughts.
Did you say that?
Branding seems to be, oh, wait, does someone have a question?
Hi. Did
Hi.
you say that you stopped using all these social media and you only use LinkedIn and something else now? Is it because it was too much? Because like so
Yeah, for
my thing. So I'm just curious.
Um, yeah, Mary. So, and again, this is like where it really is different for every person. So, just because I did this specifically doesn't mean I suggest it for everyone else. But yes, for me, I found that I was getting the most results on LinkedIn. And so I doubled down on that. And that's why I let Instagram go, especially the algorithms there were just like not working very well. And I wasn't really booking clients. And so I realized, why am I doing all of this? When I could just focus on one thing. So I really put all of my efforts into my podcast and then LinkedIn. And that's really what I've been helping a lot of my clients do when we're doing the rebrand, is also deciding like, what does that marketing execution look like? Because it's probably different for a lot of different people because, if Dawn's looking at agent attraction, well, then we want to figure out where the agents are hanging out. But if, Sherry or you, Mary, are working with like more elite clients, they might not even be hanging out on social media. That might be more networking, right? And so, really, that strategy, I think, is specific for each person. And I think that's the downfall of like a lot of the methodologies we say of like, this is the golden rule of how to do it, and this is how I did it. And it's like, well, that works for you, but it's not going to work for everybody, right? In my opinion, it should be very specific to each person. But I do like, I wanted to do that also to test the fact that we can be social media optional in some ways. Like, we don't have to be on all the platforms. The trick is finding, you do have to be visible on some level. So the trick is finding which, platform is best for you, basically.
Tiffany, you mentioned, and you're the second person that has mentioned this to me, but for Instagram, you mentioned doing a 9 square. Can you
Hmm.
elaborate on that?
Yes, absolutely. And I apologize, Charlene, I did not forget about you. I'm just multitasking to be completely honest. Because I'm looking for a specific podcast episode, but if I can't find it, I'll give it to Dawn and she can send it to you
Yes, perfect.
later. But what
I
I'll do
know
for now is
Charlene.
just so you have it, I'll just put a link. I know I shared all kinds of links now. I'll just put the podcast and maybe one will just speak to you. I would say that would be the best thing is if you do book a call, is to just listen to an episode or two that call to you, and that will help you get like an understanding of more what I'm about and how I work with clients and some of the things that you can be thinking about ahead of time. Yeah, Dawn, so for Instagram, if you go to my Instagram, you'll notice that there are only, if anybody's like, well, what the heck is a 9 grid or a 9 square? It's literally 9 static posts that are just always there. So I never post on Instagram anymore. I will do stories once in a while. Like every week when my podcast comes out, I usually do a story. And then I'm really bad at doing stories now because now after I haven't needed to do it, I'm like, I just don't think about it. But I do, like I'm traveling or I'm whatever, and then people will still see me. But the main thing is it's almost like a mini sales page. So when I speak or when I'm on workshops like this or I meet people, I can still, people are going to Google you. And if they're on Instagram, they're still going to look for you. So you don't want to just not have Instagram, but this allows you to not post anymore. And so we create these for a lot of our clients that we do, the brands. We create a beautiful grid that will be there, and then it gives resources. So I have multiple, like I have my quiz on there. I have a podcast that people can download. And so I'm still there, but I don't actually have to do any work, if that makes sense.
And
Is that helpful, Dawn?
it should be the minimum as real estate agents that we do. Like I literally just thought of that. Like just go do 9 different posts that give people an idea of what it's like to work with you, and then you can use that all the time and go do something else. Because it does get exhausting trying to keep up with Instagram. I don't use it. I don't like Instagram. We post there, but it's not my favorite platform.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and what I've found too is like if you're well, for me, this is my personal experience, but I was posting just to post, and then because I didn't have the energy, the excitement behind it, then the post didn't get a lot of traction, and then that was almost worse than like just having the 9 grid. You know what I mean? Where on
Yeah.
LinkedIn, because I get a lot of engagement there, it's actually fun for me and I want to show up and I have discussions with people and then like the biggest part for me too of a brand is energetics, right? It's yes, you can have the perfect message. Yes, you can have the best visuals and all of those things. And that's a piece I didn't get into a lot today, but I talk about in other things is like the energetics behind the brand and the way that we're feeling. Like people are going to feel that. So if you're showing up on a platform that you don't love, and like Renee's saying, like, I love Instagram and that's great. Like, I have clients that love Instagram too, and that's their jam. And they're like, ooh, LinkedIn, right? And that's where it goes back to like each person is like, you need to
Yeah.
find what works for you.
I still love Facebook. Like I love Facebook. If I'm going to post, I go there. But the good thing about Instagram and Facebook is that they work together. So I looks like I'm still posting there, but I don't purposely. But it is where I put my stories, just like you.
Love that.
Love it. Thank you so much for this. Does anyone
Yeah.
else have any questions?
I just want to say thank you so much. I'm on your schedule. I can't wait to talk to you. And this has been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mary. I'm looking forward to meeting some of you, and it's just perfect timing too because I don't, Dawn, you don't even know this yet, but up until now, we've done very custom and bespoke brands and websites, and it is an investment just for everyone to know. But we've actually just created a new offer too that is faster and more affordable for people. So it's a good time to be to be in the midst right now. Um, all right. Well, so lovely to meet all of you. Dawn, thank you for having me so
Absolutely. Thank
much.
you so much.
Thank you. I'm on your calendar too, in December.
Yeah, mine's too, December.
All
Thank
right. And if for
you.
some reason, I'll drop in one more thing here. If for some reason the I have to check my calendar after that because I did not realize it was quite so booked. If for some reason you really want to, you're like, I want to talk way sooner, um, feel free to email me too, and we can figure something out because I don't want everybody waiting like months if we can figure it out. So I have to say I'm also mindful of like I'm traveling and then during the holidays I block my calendar, which we all should be doing, but I don't want to make people wait too long. So
Well,
Thank
thank
you
you
so
so
much.
much.
absolutely.
Bye,
Nice to meet you
everyone.
all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
And if you're not signed up on powergirlsinrealestate.com, go ahead and do that so that you can get the replay hub. And that's where Tiffany's recording will be.
Thanks.
And we'll send that out to everyone too. Thanks, guys. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.